Hi folks, I'm Ignatiy Vishnevetsky.
And I'm Alex Dowd.
We are at Club Lago restaurant, just around the corner from the AV Club office.
Welcome to Film Club.
I can't think of a recent Ridley Scott movie that I've enjoyed this much.
So I actually agree, this is probably my favorite Ridley Scott movie in ages, maybe since Black Hawk Down, actually. The film is based on the debut novel by Andy Weir, the bestseller from a couple years ago, and it's about this astronaut who's stranded on Mars. His crew sort of leaves him for dead. There's a big sandstorm and he's hit by some debris and they think he's dead. And he wakes up and they're on their way back to Earth. All of Earth has sort of mourned his death at this point, and he has to figure out, how am I going to survive? Can I grow crops here? He's a botanist. Can I make myself food, and can I get in contact with NASA? And the film sort of cuts back and forth between him on the planet trying to survive day to day, and everyone back on Earth trying to figure out how can we get him back.
And it's set over a very long span. I mean, it's set over almost 2 years.
Damon's character, we never learn anything about his personal life.
No, I mean, he mentions his parents once. Right. Other than that, this is strictly about their ability to solve problems.
Right. The Martian is interested in them in terms of how are they going to fix this dilemma. The film, I think, has more in common with something like Apollo 13 than it does.
Oh, it totally feels like Apollo 13.
Yeah.
This might sound at first like a put down, but he's very good at framing production design. He's working again with Arthur Max, who's been his production designer. I mean, he's a guy who he designed Seven for David Fincher and Panic Room, which is relevant here. But other than that, his whole career has just been Ridley Scott movies.
Sure.
And so in many ways, he is Scott's major kind of late period creative collaborator. Mm-hmm. And they create quite a credible world that feels contemporary. So for me, this is the rare case where I enjoyed a Ridley Scott movie, a recent Ridley Scott movie, for being a Ridley Scott movie, rather than for what it had the potential to be.
Well, see, I agree with you mostly. Scott sort of is in his wheelhouse here. I like Ridley Scott going to space, I think that works. On the other hand, I do sort of mourn the movie that could have been a little bit. My ideal version of this gives us a little bit more of him alone on that planet, and sort of suggests the isolation, because he is a single person alone on an entire planet.
If there's a problem, the larger one, at least for me, is that there's no sense of suspense here. I don't know if you got this. I mean, for me, there was never a point where I felt a tension around this situation. But at the same time, the lack of tension and the fact that he's always finding solutions for something. Mm-hmm. And so instead of being in suspense, what you end up thinking about is, oh, well, how's he going to solve this one?
Luckily, I'm a botanist. Mars will come to fear my botany powers.
And this is one of the biggest releases in theaters this week, but at the same time, there's a lot of very good smaller stuff playing around. I don't know if this is just a week where I have claustrophobia and confined settings on the brain, but the first thing I think of when I think of something that's good and playing in smaller runs is Queen of Earth, which is set mostly in and around this lake house.
And that's Alex Ross Perry's follow-up to Listen Up, Philip.
And in some ways a very different movie from Listen Up, Philip. All of Perry's films up to this point have been comedies. And this is overtly a psychodrama, kind of in this late 60s, 1970s tradition. Which isn't to say that it doesn't have these moments of dark humor.
Perry's definitely playing on Bergman in this film. He's playing a little bit on Repulsion.
There's a lot of Polanski in there.
Yep. I'm not sure, watching this one, I'm not sure if it's more than just a really clever tribute to that kind of filmmaking.
Moss is fantastic, as is Catherine Waterston. And the interesting thing here is that their acting styles here are completely different. So he's basically building this film around two radically different performances and sort of putting them into this complicated relationship.
Yeah, Moss is going very big and volatile.
I could murder you right now and no one would ever know.
Whereas Waterston is going...
She's underplaying what could be a more stylized role, and it creates this sense of counterpoint. And it's the same thing as sort of the counterpoint between the humor of the movie, because there is a sense of humor to it, and these kind of serious, weighty themes.
Another film that's kind of a psychodrama set in a really isolated location is Goodnight Mommy. So it's this Austrian horror film about these twin boys, and their mother has come home from plastic surgery. We sort of find out gradually that she's been in an accident, and these two kids basically come to believe that their mother is not their mother, that she's this imposter.
Du bist nicht unsere Mama.
The film has this, I would say, this very transparent twist that I'm not going to talk much about, but that I think a lot of savvy viewers will sort of figure out very quickly. But it kind of doesn't matter because the thing is just keeps sort of tightening the screws. So to sort of there's there's a little bit of like this kind of childlike whimsy to the early scenes. These sort of mischievous kids sort of running around and creating trouble for their mother. But the film gets more and more intense as it goes along, and I think sort of extreme horror fans sort of owe it to themselves to see this movie.